noises make you uncomfortable? Interesting. Well, we can't have that. How about this? Is that better? No. Well, too bad. I'm kidding. Let's take it all the way out. Hello. Hey there. And welcome to a video that I actually planned. I know it's quite rare. I get it, because tonight we are doing the very opposite of random facts. You get me yet? Still no? I'm sorry, I guess it's just that type of video. Basically, I guess everybody does this probably. You have questions throughout your day, right? Where you're like, I wonder why the sky is blue. Well, that's what this video is going to be. It's going to be pretty much what I did was I aggregated all these times where I had to Google something completely random, a question that maybe shouldn't have been Googled. And I'm going to read those out to you. I have a whole notepad that I'm going to scroll through, and I'm over-explaining it. Let me give you an example, okay? So, the first one, I asked, hey, why do bones pop? Why my bones sound like old man Jenkins, okay? And here's the reason. Joints naturally accrue nitrogen bubbles over time because of the synovial fluid that serves as a lubricant for them. These bubbles can build up in the spaces of a joint and cause the joint to feel tight. When this happens, you can crack the joint to loosen it, releasing the gas from its bubbles. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I have a bajillion of these that we're going to go through. And I guess, since this is in fact a job interview, what inspired this video is lately a bunch of the ASMR video I've been listening to help me sleep have been just like information styled, not technically ASMR. Basically, and how do I explain it? I don't want to say podcasts, but just like any videos where someone talks in a constant tone about a very specific topic. So like about black holes or something like that. And that'll just put me right to bed. Okay, so I genuinely wanted to know how refrigerators work. I should know this, but I don't. So I googled it, and what I was actually wondering about is in which process do we actually cool focus at a distance for a long period of time, I do feel like it's really difficult at first, and it gets better and better as the minutes go on. But yeah, cheers to never getting glasses and simply trying to get through life one fist at a time. It's like I refuse to believe that I'll have to wear glasses one day. It's very ignorant of me, and so don't take my advice. Go see an optometrist. Furthermore, when I did research on it, there was a lot of evidence that proved that simply wearing corrective glasses will correct myopia, in fact. So nearsightedness, your eye will begin to reshape and fix itself in minor cases, not in extreme cases, of course. Here's a fun one. Most people, they don't like the smell of a wet dog. I like to imagine that when I go swimming, I smell like a wet dog. I really don't mind the smell. I don't like it, but it's very earthy, and I like earthy. So I wanted to find out what causes dogs to smell when they get wet, because you'd think that'd be cleaning them. But obviously something weird's going on. Your dog has a lot of microorganisms, that's yeast and bacteria, living on the skin, and they produce waste products. When wet, these organic acids become aerosolized as water evaporates and produces that awful wet dog smell we have all come to know. I actually only gave that paragraph some thought now, and it makes a lot of sense. I guess I shouldn't over-explain it, but I like to talk out loud and explain things. So there's a bunch of bacteria and yeast, and they're not activated by the water. It's not like they like water and that's when they go crazy and make smells. It's just that the water encapsulates those bacteria so at the point of the gunpowder exploding, that wick ignites while flying up into the air, and after X amount of time, the wick will ignite the metal, which will cause the big beautiful light. And I guess they get all the different colors by using different metals, because different metals burn in different colors. Right? I honestly never thought it was metals, though. I thought it was different gases. I think a lot of us did that science experiment in school, where you burn, where you're burning a fire. You're burning a fire. You have a fire lit, and you'll introduce like a different gas, and that'll change the color. So I thought they used different gases. But I guess it makes sense. It'd be is completely relative, I guess, in the idea, or in the sense that everyone experiences time differently. You know, whether you're bored or doing something fun, time goes by fast, but that's not the actual time. We're talking about the physical time that's happening. So, in relation to yourself, time never speeds up or slows down. It is constant no matter where you are in relation to yourself. Time is constant, but if someone else was watching you, just like watching paint dry, they might see it going by faster or slower depending on how fast you are moving in relation to gravity. I think so. Once again, a very tough topic to understand, but when you'd be going into a black hole, you wouldn't notice any slow of time, but you would see like if you had a telescope that could read faster than the speed of light, you would see everything else, away from you. Earth, if you were falling into a black hole and Earth was in the distance, you would see Earth slowing down, pretty much come to a standstill. Then, you'd see the opposite, sorry, so you'd see Earth going by really, really, really fast. And for what would be a few minutes for you, it could be multiple years on Earth. It's crazy, but ultimately, time is affected by gravity x speed. I'm a scientist. I am not. But I could be. But I am not. Although, no, I'm not. I'm really not. Here I was wondering, why does restarting a router fix it? When something breaks, it needs to be fixed. You cannot simply, turn it on and off and that be the fix. And I hate that that is the fix, because I like fixing things, and restarting something shouldn't be fixing. But here is why restarting a modem or router can fix its operation. Restarting it clears its memory and resets tasks that might have stalled. One of its most important jobs is handing out unique IP addresses for each device that connects to it. If you have a lot of devices requesting addresses of devices frequently jumping on and off the network, the router sometimes can't keep up. So I don't like it, but ultimately the answer is the router's not good. It's a very slow computer, and if you overwhelm it, it just gets hung up and can't do anything, and by resetting it, you tell it to forget all those previous requests and start anew. So really you just need a new router. Since all the cool air, I was wondering why an igloo doesn't melt when there's a fire in it. Since all the cool air inside the igloo goes to the bottom part and remains there, upper levels stay warm. A small hole at the top also prevents the igloo from storing too much smoke. By keeping the shelter insulated, the heat from the inhabitants in the fire does not escape easily. And just on my own research, the fire will in fact melt the ice on the wall. But melting doesn't mean it's gone forever. The ice melts and freezes because there's cold ice on the other side. Outside is cold, inside's hot. And there's this just constant state change where it's going between ice it ended